And he would like to discuss what would we do if we had no standards and guidelines. It sounds scary and fun, but welcome to Andrew Wade.
Thanks, guys. There's always one idiot who brings his own machine along, isn't there? I see you're allowing South Africans and Australians in. Your standards are slipping. Right. Everyone pray to whichever God you know that this works.
Oh.
Hey, there we are. Right. So, like I said, I'm here to talk about what happens when you have no rules. Most of you probably live in very regulated environments. What sort of reaction do you have when you think of no rules in your project? Is it chaos, fear, anger? Does it make you feel a bit happier about the project that you were maybe on? Why do you feel like that? What is it about your projects that make you feel chaotic if the rules are taken away? What makes you feel happy if the rules are taken away? We work in an environment where there are no regulations about acoustics. There were some standards written. They aren't enforceable. We work up north through Africa where there have never been acoustic standards. What do you do then? What would you take out of your project that's in your project at the moment that's only there because the rules are telling you they have to be there, but it doesn't actually help anybody? It's just costing the project money. What do you wish you could put in, but you can't because the regulations say it's not needed, and so there's no budget for it? What would you do if you could do everything just for your client's needs? And who cares what the rules and regulations say? There aren't any. Yeah? Now, we were talking last night. If you put 3 acousticians in a room and leave them for an hour, they'll come out with 3 new standards, 5 new metrics, and a whole new way to talk about acoustics, right? There is a massive fog of stuff. And for good reason. I mean, psychoacoustics is a thing. It's really hard to take something that you can feel, touch, everyone has ideas. How do you put a number to that? How do you put a letter to it? So you end up with a whole bunch of stuff. And you end up with a whole bunch of regulations. And you end up with a whole bunch of rules and guidelines that keep you going down a path. It's really good, isn't it? It brings clarity, it brings focus. You know exactly which 2 or 3 things you need. You've got your guidelines up, you've got your rails, everything's nice and safe. You know exactly what you need to do to get to the end and to deliver your project. The problem is, it can also bring in a whole bunch of stagnation, boredom, catnip. Where's Adrian James? Somewhere. There. He talked about catnip last time. Does anyone know, besides Adrian, what it stands for? Cheapest available technology not involving prosecution. What a wonderful way to design, hey? What's the least we can get away with without going to court? Hallelujah. What if you could push a button and all of them disappear and you're only left with only 2 things you can never get rid of, right? What if everything else went away and you can just design to what your client wants? What if your clients all wear soft-soled shoes? We've got a client like that. We don't have any impact protection for them. Literally everyone turns up to work in sneakers. Why on earth would you put a protection layer in the floor? Costs a fortune. Would you choose TMF or RT? Why? DNTW or DW or STC? Which one? Why? What are you actually trying to get out of your project? What's actually the reason that you're doing this whole design? It's for your client's needs, right? It's for them who are going to work in the space afterwards. It's not about the acoustician, we don't care. TMF, RT, it's all about whether the clients need it or not, right? The only trouble is that if you're in an unregulated environment, I can assure you that there is no budget for it ever. The QS will never allow for it. Acoustics always costs the company money. It always costs the project money. It's always an extra. It was never allowed for in the base build budget. We are always the people at the back, along with sustainability, lighting design, and who knows what else, trying to find a little bit of money. We are always trying to not cost the project money and justify why we're here and how this is a good thing. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's some proper difficulty to doing this. But we need to know what we're doing. Because when we stand in front of our clients, we need to know what regulations there are. We need to know what metrics we could use out of all of those, and which actually apply to our clients. And what do we use? Why? So where do we start? Same reason we're all here, right? We start with education. We need to educate our clients about acoustics first because they've never done this before. We also need to educate the design team, and we need to educate ourselves about what on earth our clients do, because every single one is, to some extent, different, yeah? So we've got some questions for them. What do you do? Sounds dumb, right? But there's a big difference between designing in an office space for a big collaborative environment and designing for analysts who all need their space and they better not hear anything from anyone ever. Or some of our clients who are talking about some tax affairs in one room, which they'd quite like the person not to hear in the room next door. Yeah? Big differences. Also, how do you do it? Do you guys prefer to work in an open plan office? Do you prefer to work in private spaces? How do you do the job that you do? We love it when there's a change management or a workspace designer or someone involved. It doesn't happen as often as we'd like to, but we really need to know how our clients work. We also need to then know what their priorities are, because we will run out of money every time, yeah? So we need to know what are the absolute fundamentals that we cannot move away from, what's nice to have, and what must everyone just stop talking about, because there's no money, there's no budget, it's never going to happen, right? And in the middle of all of that, we'll take all of those standards and we'll try and whittle them down to the few that actually apply to this project, yeah? Hopefully through some of this we can teach them some basic acoustics. It does help along the way. Mass stop sound. We're not actually really in pursuit of silence. We do like a bit of noise. We aren't schools. We normally turn up in a space and everyone's scared that we're going to try and make everything very quiet. And we find that almost always in office spaces, the worst thing we can possibly do is have a really quiet building. If we're brought in because an open plan office isn't working, it's usually because we're measuring noise levels like 25 dBA in the space, because the people who knew no better just kept trying to make everything quieter, and we tried to bring the noise back in. So once we've done all that, we then go on to our design process, which I'm sure you all know that process pretty well: spec, review, build, test. We have to add in 2 steps to this: education at the beginning and review at the end. Importantly though, remember we have no rules. There's nothing to hold anybody to anything, so we have to focus on that spec. If we don't work on that spec and put there clearly exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, we will have problems later. Especially if our clients along the way have said, well, we don't really want to do that, and we know they need it. We then need to put that in to say, we think you need it, you think you don't. And we're here to protect the design team from problems later. Clients tend to have sometimes have a memory lapse once they move into a building, and no one quite remembers exactly who did what. It's quite rare, but it's important. We don't have the rules. We have to write them for every single project and customize it to what our clients need. Remember, if you have those guide rails up, everybody's always friends. You can't go off. If you don't have those, you could easily design something absolutely terrible. There's nothing to stop you except your client when they move in at the end and it doesn't work. Yeah? So we go through this process. We make sure everybody is educated, ourselves, the design team, and the client. Write a very clear specification. It's our job to know what they need, right? But they need to tell us what they do. Now, in South Africa, we aren't a total backwater, kind of. We have acoustic standards since 1964. Our problem is just that our economy in South Africa and further north is not big enough to develop standards, to develop regulations, or necessarily to enforce them. We don't have the economy. Further north, they don't have the economy either. So what we do is we end up pulling in from other places and doing the best we can. As one of the old guys I was talking to a while ago said, in South Africa, you just have to get on with it. There's no one to hold your hand. You have to make it all up as you go along. It's good fun, right? Only problem is we got massive stagnation. So when we turned up in 2010 in South Africa, we had 2 products. We had OA Constellation and we had Gyprock Line 6. That was it. Which meant that architects were bored out of their minds with acoustics. Interior designers hated it because they didn't want their project to look like everybody else's. And QSs never allowed for it because no one ever wanted it. Well, that was easy, wasn't it? What they wanted to do, interior designers wanted something more like that. Aine and I were there about 3 weeks ago. It's terrible. But the interior designer loved the look of it. Look at all that polished loveliness. Poor people moved into it, literally couldn't use it. Called us in a panic. We even get soundproofed ceilings. Genuine restaurant just outside Cape Town. God help us all. The other problem is that on site, you'll get a massive range of construction. Everything from Friday afternoon bricklaying through to really careful, conscientious detailing. We get everything from the best to the worst, which means we're on site quite a lot until we know that we can actually trust the people who are doing what they're doing. A lot of the builders have never come across a building before with this acoustician guy on. What the hell is, oh my word, what details? Oh my word, no, we just do fire details, it's fine. Fire works for acoustics, doesn't it? Oh boy, okay, so what do we end up with? We need privacy and we need noise control, yeah? Funny that. 15 years in, and we've still found that you still need the same two things. Whether you've got rules or not, clients still want the same two things. They want privacy and they want noise control. Privacy is really important for us because we can't fix it afterwards. They'll run out of budget and you can't go back in afterwards and make it better. Noise control, you know those wall panels that you said you didn't need? Well, you know, maybe we should put them in now, yeah? The other thing, though, that our clients really need is choice and control. But that is down to the company culture. We have some clients who are amazing and they give their employees amazing choice and buy-in. And we have others who are dictatorial and tell everyone what to do, and then those projects don't work quite as well. Empowered spaces only work with employees empowered, not just the client rep. Okay, so what sort of targets do we end up with? You probably recognize the numbers, don't you? Confidential 47, 42, 37. But is that DNTW? Is that DW? Why? Which one have you put in your spec? Did you put DNTW in your cheating now? DW? What about STC? It's your choice. Everything's up to you, right? Boardrooms, 35 D, is that DBA or is that NR? Up to you. You get to choose. Unfortunately, we have to do DBA. We tried really hard to enforce NR for many years, but no one's got the data, no one's got octave bands, and so we just say DBA with no tones. We wish for NR, but we aren't allowed it. And then for reverberation times, is that TMF or is that RT? Which one have you chosen for your client? Yeah. So normally we'll use TMF if there's no amplified sound, and rev time if there is. And if they've got those little, I don't know how many of you have been on jobs where they now install those little sort of face tracking monitoring cameras, those eagle eyes. Super freaky where you start talking and suddenly you see yourself big on the screen. You need wall panels everywhere for those things. They get so confused with the bounce off a sidewall. So those are general targets at work. Man, I wish we could always get open plan to work like that, but it doesn't. More often than not, we're fighting for something. But anyway, those are the numbers at work. It turns out they all come from the standards. We aren't reinventing everything, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to apply everything from everywhere that we can find. A lot of these are from AS/NZS, not just AS. A lot of them are from SANS, a lot of them from European standards. DIN works really well for us for placing acoustics in the right place. You know, the DIN standard 2018, was it? 2016? That shows where you should put panels in a room. We pull them from wherever we can. The only thing is nothing's enforced, so you can do whatever you like, right? So, once we've now built this amazing place, we've always found that it'll only work if everyone is educated and there's a great deal of cooperation. No one can be a dictator in this environment. Everybody has to cooperate with each other. The design team, us, client, the client rep, and the employees. If we don't have that cooperation, it's never going to work. And so we found that we're actually getting buildings in South Africa that work pretty well. We've got a wide range of products. We're getting budgets approved. We even have the mythical acoustic plaster now. I think I saw some outside. No acoustic paint yet, but we'll, you know, there's always hope. Anyway, so how do you feel now about work designing to no rules? What could you go back to your projects where you are fuss to what you have to do? And you've got regulations and rules that you have to apply to. What could you go back and have a look and think, well, is there something I'm missing? Is there something I could incorporate? Have we actually thought of what the end users need in this space? Or did I just delete the name of this client at the top of the report, put the new client at the top of the report, and sent out the same damn report? Because we find that if you really do design for your end clients that need, they end up really happy, and we end up having a lot more fun. It's great fun. There we go.